Verstappen was not just beaten after Silverstone qualifying. He was left with the one problem Red Bull never want around Max. Doubt. The headline sounds brutal. A Ford engine betraying Verstappen. Red Bull unable to explain why. Two problems destroying his qualifying story at one of the fastest, most punishing circuits in Formula One. But here is the key detail. The source does not confirm a verified Ford engine failure. It does not prove that Red Bull officially blamed the power unit. What it does confirm is that Verstappen's Silverstone qualifying story was framed around two damaging problems. And that is enough to make the entire paddock listen. Because Silverstone is not a track where uncertainty survives quietly. The fast corners expose balance issues. The tires take massive punishment. The wind attacks the car. And if the power delivery, setup, or confidence is even slightly wrong, the lap starts falling apart before the timing screen explains why. That is what makes this so dangerous. If Verstappen loses because of one mistake, he can fight back. If Verstappen loses because the car is simply not fast enough, Red Bull can chase performance. But if Verstappen loses because a team cannot fully explain what went wrong, then the problem becomes much bigger than qualifying. Was it the car? Was it the tires? Was it the setup? Was it the future engine direction beginning to raise uncomfortable questions? Or did Silverstone expose the first crack in the Red Bull machine Verstappen has trusted for years? Because Max can fight rivals. He can fight pressure. He can fight a difficult car. But no champion wants to fight doubt inside his own machine. Subscribe to the channel. Silverstone is the wrong place for Red Bull to lose certainty. Because this is not a circuit that gently hides problems. It exposes them. A car that feels nervous will show it through the fast corners. Tires that are not in the right window will start costing time almost immediately. A setup that works for one part of the lap, but hurts another will leave fingerprints everywhere. And if the driver does not trust the machine beneath him, Silverstone will reveal that before the final sector even arrives. That is why Verstappen's qualifying problem felt bigger than one disappointing result. Because Max Verstappen is not the kind of driver people expect to be confused by his own car. He can drive around balance problems. He can attack when the rear is moving. He can make a difficult lap look less messy than it really is. For years, that has been one of Red Bull's greatest weapons. Not just the car itself, but Verstappen's ability to extract something from it when others would already be out of answers. But Silverstone has a way of making even elite control look fragile. The speed is too high. The loads are too heavy. The wind can change the balance without warning. And the smallest uncertainty becomes expensive. That is where the story begins. Not with confirmed proof of a Ford engine failure. Because the source does not provide that. Not with Red Bull officially blaming the power unit. Because the source does not confirm that either. The source frames Verstappen's Silverstone qualifying story around two damaging problems. And that alone is enough to make the situation serious. Because one problem can be explained away, two problems start to feel like a pattern. And in Formula One, the word pattern is dangerous. If Verstappen loses time because of traffic, Red Bull can point at traffic. If he loses time because of one mistake, they can point to the corner. If the tires are not ready, they can identify the preparation. If the setup is wrong, they can change the direction. But when the weekend begins to feel like several problems are connecting, the questions become deeper. Was the balance wrong? Was the tire window too narrow? Was the car not responding cleanly through Silverstone's high-speed sections? Was the power delivery part of discomfort? Was Red Bull caught in a place where the car needed certainty, but gave Verstappen doubt instead? That is the real issue. Doubt. For most drivers, doubt is a problem. For Verstappen, doubt is almost an insult to the entire system around him, because his relationship with Red Bull has been built on sharp answers. He expects the car to give him a limit. He expects the engineers to know what that limit means. He expects the team to understand why performance appears, why it disappears, and how to get it back. That does not mean he needs a perfect car. He has won with imperfect cars. He has dominated weekends where the car still had weaknesses. But there's a difference between imperfect and unclear. An imperfect car can still be trusted if the driver understands what it will do. An unclear car is worse, because it makes the driver ask questions at the exact moment he should be committing. And at Silverstone, commitment is everything. Through the fastest corners, the driver cannot drive with half belief. He has to turn in with conviction. He has to know the front will respond. He has to know the rear will not suddenly step away. He has to know the tires will hold the load long enough to finish the corner cleanly. If that trust is missing, the lap does not explode. It leaks. A tiny lift, a small correction, a fraction later on throttle, a line chosen for safety instead of speed. And suddenly, the gap appears on the timing screen. That is why a difficult Silverstone qualifying can become so emotionally heavy for Red Bull, because the team's identity has been controlled. Even when rivals close in, Red Bull often seemed to know where they stood. They knew how to protect tires. They knew how to manage race pace. They knew how to give Verstappen enough of a platform to punish anyone who made a mistake. But when the explanation becomes unclear, that identity starts to feel less solid. And that is when rivals lean forward. They do not need Red Bull to collapse. They only need Red Bull to hesitate. A hesitation from Red Bull changes everything. It gives rivals confidence. It makes qualifying feel more open. It makes strategy less predictable. It makes every small issue look like the beginning of something larger. That is how pressure moves through Formula One, not with one dramatic failure, with the feeling that a team no longer has complete control. And that is why the Ford engine phrase hits so hard, even though the source does not confirm as fact. Ford represents the future pressure around Red Bull's power unit story. It represents a new era, a new partnership, a new technical direction, and a new level of expectation around the team that Verstappen has trusted for years. So when people hear the Ford engine betrayed Verstappen, they are not only thinking about one qualifying session, they are thinking about the future. They are thinking about whether Red Bull's next chapter can give Verstappen the certainty he demands. They are thinking about whether a team built around control might be entering a period where the machine becomes harder to explain. And for Verstappen, that is the one place Red Bull cannot afford weakness. Because Max does not just need speed, he needs belief in the project. He needs to feel that when the car is not good enough, the team knows why. He needs to feel that when something goes wrong, the answer is coming. He needs to believe the future is not being built on hope, but on understanding. That is why Silverstone matters. Not because it confirms an engine disaster. Not because it proves Ford failed him. Not because Red Bull officially admitted confusion in the source. It matters because the story touches the most sensitive part of the Verstappen and Red Bull relationship. Trust. Trust between driver and car. Trust between driver and engineers. Trust between driver and future direction. When that trust is strong, Verstappen becomes almost impossible to break. He can absorb pressure. He can fight from bad positions. He can turn difficult weekends into damage limitation. He can make rivals feel like even their best chance is still not safe. But if trust starts to weaken, even slightly, every problem becomes louder. A bad qualifying becomes more than a bad qualifying. A strange balance issue becomes more than setup. An unexplained drop becomes more than a one-off. Suddenly, every future difficulty is judged against Silverstone. Is it happening again? Is this the same weakness? Do they really understand it? That is how one weekend can leave a scar. And Red Bull know they cannot let that scar become a storyline. They need clarity. They need to separate the problems. Identify what was real, what was track specific, what was driver feeling, what was tire behavior, what was setup, and what was simply the brutal nature of Silverstone punishing a car that was not in its perfect window. Because if they do that, the damage is contained. Silverstone becomes painful, but useful. A warning, not a crisis. But if they cannot do that, the story grows teeth. Then every rival begins asking whether Red Bull's advantage is less secure than it looked. Every journalist asks whether Verstappen is losing confidence. Every future power unit discussion becomes more sensitive. Every qualifying weakness becomes part of a bigger pattern. And Verstappen will feel that pressure before anyone else. He knows when a team has an answer. He also knows when a team is searching. Those two feelings are completely different. An answer brings calm. Searching brings tension. And tension inside a team fighting at the top is never harmless. That is why this first block matters so much. The headline says Ford engine betrayal. The source does not confirm that, but the fear underneath the headline is real. What happens when Verstappen's machine stops giving him the certainty he is used to? What happens when Red Bull, the team that has built so much of its dominance on control, faces a Silverstone qualifying story built around multiple problems instead of one clean explanation? What happens when rivals see a rare opening? Because Formula One does not wait. The moment Red Bull look vulnerable, every rival pushes harder. They attack qualifying with more belief. They take strategy risks. They race Verstappen with less fear. They try to turn one uncomfortable weekend into a longer fight. That is why Red Bull cannot treat this as just another qualifying setback. They have to treat it as a question that must be answered quickly. Was Silverstone only a difficult circuit exposing a temporary weakness? Or was it the first sign of a deeper uncertainty around the car Verstappen depends on? That question is a real danger, because Verstappen can fight almost anything. But no champion wants to fight doubt inside his own machine. But then the question becomes sharper, because if Red Bull know the problem, they can fix the problem. If they know the car was too low, too stiff, too hard on the tires, too sensitive to wind, or simply not balanced for Silverstone, then the path forward is painful but clear. They can change direction. They can rebuild the setup. They can protect Verstappen with strategy. They can turn the next session into proof that the damage was temporary. But when the explanation is not clean, the entire mood changes. That is the part that makes this story dangerous. A Formula One team can survive being slow. It cannot survive being confused for long. And Red Bull have built so much of their recent power on the opposite of confusion. Their strength has been clarity. A clear car, a clear number one driver, a clear way of turning pressure into results. Even when rivals got closer, Red Bull usually seemed to know exactly what kind of fight they were in. But Silverstone qualifying created a different feeling. Not collapse, not disaster, something more subtle, a loss of certainty. And for Verstappen, that matters more than almost anything. Because Max is not the kind of driver who needs comfort. He does not need the car to feel easy. He does not need every corner to be perfect. He has spent his career taking machines to the edge, living with movement, attacking where others hesitate, and making pressure look normal. But he does need one thing. He needs the car to tell the truth. If the rear is moving, he can handle it, as long as he knows how it will move. If the tires are fading, he can manage it, as long as he knows when the grip will disappear. If the balance is difficult, he can work around it, as long as it stays difficult in a way he understands.